If you don't enforce your own value, others will erase you quietly. Disrespect is not accidental. It's permission you gave through weakness, hesitation, and self-betrayal. You were taught a lie early, and it has cost you more than you realize. You were told that respect is earned through effort, kindness, competence, and patience. That if you work hard, stay fair, and prove your value long enough, people will eventually treat you well. This belief sounds moral. It sounds civilized. It is also why so many people disappear quietly. Respect is not granted. It is recognized. And recognition only happens when something is enforced. In every social structure, respect flows toward those who demonstrate self-alignment. Not loud confidence, not arrogance, alignment. When your words, boundaries, decisions, and tolerance levels point in the same direction, people sense solidity. When they don't, people test. Most disrespect doesn't begin with cruelty. It begins with permission. Small concessions, ignored discomfort, unchallenged dismissals, laughing off things that bothered you, agreeing when you wanted to refuse. Each moment feels insignificant on its own. Together, they form a pattern, and patterns are how humans rank each other. People don't consciously decide to erase you. They simply stop accounting for you. Your time becomes flexible. Your opinion becomes optional. Your presence becomes invisible. This is not punishment. It is adjustment. The illusion is believing that being useful protects you. It doesn't. Utility without self-respect turns you into infrastructure, necessary, replaceable, unnoticed. History is full of competent men who were sidelined because they tolerated too much. Machiavelli understood that power begins internally. If you do not treat yourself as a fixed point, others will treat you as a variable. Variables are moved. Fixed points are worked around. Notice how quickly respect collapses once you compromise your own standards. People don't thank you for flexibility. They assume weakness. They don't admire sacrifice. They expect more of it. This is where the illusion breaks. Respect is not a reward for goodness. It is a response to self-enforcement. Those who respect themselves do not beg to be seen. They do not explain why something matters to them. They act as if it already does, and others follow that framing instinctively. Until you understand this, you will keep mistaking endurance for strength and tolerance for virtue. And while you wait to be appreciated, you will be slowly erased. This chapter is the lens shift. Respect does not start with them. It starts with what you refuse to accept. Disrespect rarely arrives loudly. It creeps in through moments where you abandon yourself and call it strategy. Self-abandonment happens when you override your own signals to preserve comfort. You feel irritation but stay silent. You feel resistance but comply. You sense dismissal but rationalize it away. Each time your nervous system records a fact, your boundaries are negotiable. Others detect this long before you do. Humans are exceptional pattern readers. We don't wait for declarations of weakness. We infer them from behavior. When you repeatedly betray your own limits, you broadcast that you will do it again. That broadcast shapes how people treat you. The psychological mechanism is simple and brutal. People respect consistency more than intention. You may intend to be confident, capable, worthy, but intention is invisible. Behavior is not. And behavior that contradicts self-respect triggers a silent recalibration in others. They begin to push slightly, then a little more, not out of malice, but because the environment allows it. Self-abandonment often disguises itself as being easygoing, understanding, or low maintenance. These labels feel safe.
They keep conflict away, but they also erase friction. And friction is what signals value. Objects without resistance are moved freely. Another layer is moral self-sabotage. You tell yourself that asserting boundaries is selfish, aggressive, or unnecessary. This moral framing protects your self-image while destroying your position. You remain good while becoming irrelevant. Predatory personalities exploit this immediately. They don't need to intimidate you. They simply apply pressure and watch. If you fold, they escalate. If you hold, they retreat or adapt. The test is always the same. Even well-meaning people unconsciously downgrade those who abandon themselves. They trust them less. They rely on them differently. They stop seeking their approval because it is too easy to obtain. Scarcity disappears. The most dangerous consequence is internal. Each act of self-abandonment weakens your ability to enforce future boundaries. You start doubting your reactions. You ask others how you should feel. Authority migrates outward. Machiavelli warned that men lose power not because they are attacked, but because they fail to defend their own position early. By the time disrespect is obvious, the hierarchy is already set. This chapter forces a recognition. Disrespect from others is often a delayed echo of disrespect toward yourself. Until that cycle ends, no tactic will save you. Every social environment, from corporate offices to online forums, produces the same two archetypes. Their faces change, their titles change, but their behavioral patterns remain consistent: the self-respecting and the disposable. The self-respecting individual enforces their own boundaries without pleading, explaining, or negotiating their value. They act in alignment with their priorities, letting outcomes demonstrate their position. Their actions communicate certainty. They do not seek validation because they have internalized it. Others sense this immediately. Respect is extended instinctively because the self-respecting figure signals non-negotiable value. Contrast this with the disposable. The disposable person constantly negotiates for inclusion, recognition, or acceptance. They justify themselves preemptively, attempt to please, and over-explain intentions to avoid conflict. Each concession, each apology, every unnecessary clarification is a footprint. Observers, often unconsciously, read this as a map of weakness. Over time, the disposable becomes predictable, malleable, and ultimately replaceable. The distinction is subtle at first glance. The self-respecting may appear cold or distant. They rarely smile excessively, over-communicate, or seek approval. But this perceived detachment is a tool, not an emotional failing. Their silence, measured speech, and selective engagement force others to recalibrate constantly. The disposable, in contrast, appears agreeable and accommodating, but that behavior is a trap. They are exposed to constant exploitation. Observe social groups. Who gets deferred to? Who influences outcomes without raising a hand? The self-respecting naturally attracts alignment. People adjust their behavior, adapt expectations, and anticipate their boundaries. The disposable attracts attention only when convenient for others. They are consulted, but rarely followed. Their presence is tolerated, not positioned as essential. Another key difference lies in pressure management. The self-respecting tolerates tension without compromising boundaries. Criticism, confrontation, and challenge do not trigger over-explanation. They respond strategically, maintaining hierarchy and influence. The disposable crumbles under mild pressure, revealing internal uncertainty and inviting further exploitation. History and contemporary life are littered with examples. Generals who refused to explain strategy gained obedience and fear. Politicians who over-clarified were undermined. Employees who constantly justified actions lost authority and were sidelined. This archetype dynamic is timeless. Power favors alignment and internal enforcement over approval-seeking and explanation. The self-respecting archetype is not about dominance for its own sake. It is about survivability and control over personal sovereignty. The disposable archetype sacrifices both in an attempt to secure comfort, connection, or temporary favor. Yet this very sacrifice guarantees erosion of influence. Recognizing which archetype you inhabit is the first step. Are your actions interpreted as solid and unmovable, or negotiable and weak? Can your absence cause recalibration, or will it go unnoticed? This chapter forces a confrontation with self-awareness.
With self-awareness, the world reacts less to your intentions and more to the archetype you project. Elevation is reserved for those who enforce self-respect naturally. Disposability is the fate of those who do not. Disrespect does not arrive suddenly. It begins quietly, imperceptibly, and only escalates if you signal compliance. Social erasure is a process, not an event. It happens because you failed to enforce your own boundaries before others begin to rewrite your place in their hierarchy. The first stage is invisibility. Colleagues, peers, and acquaintances stop consulting you. Your opinion, once valued, is now optional. Invitations to contribute vanish. Recognition becomes delayed or ignored. Those around you adjust behavior in response to your absence of assertive self-regard. You weren't excluded, you allowed yourself to be invisible. Next comes exploitation. When others recognize your willingness to tolerate overreach, they test limits. Tasks are delegated without consultation, credit is claimed by others, and subtle slights accumulate. Social systems reward those who enforce value and quietly punish those who tolerate erosion. History provides countless examples. In courts and kingdoms, advisors who tolerated criticism, avoided conflict, or explained themselves excessively were the first to be replaced. The same applies in modern life. Employees who justify decisions excessively, friends who over-clarify intentions, or leaders who seek approval above all else are quietly sidelined. Power does not demand malice, it simply reallocates attention toward those who signal unmovable worth. Social erasure accelerates when behavioral patterns betray inconsistency. One day you speak firmly, the next day you cave. One day you withhold explanation, the next day you justify excessively. Observers do not register nuance, they recognize patterns. Inconsistent self-respect signals negotiability, and negotiability is an invitation for displacement. Another layer is psychological. Humans subconsciously measure value through attention and dominance cues. A figure who enforces boundaries commands mental bandwidth. A figure who abandons themselves provides expendable space. Over time, the latter is not actively removed, they are quietly forgotten. The absence of demand becomes evidence of dispensability. Social erasure is reinforced by group psychology. People instinctively calibrate to those who assert clear boundaries and self-respect. When you fail to occupy that role, the hierarchy fills itself without you. It is subtle, systemic, and relentless. Your disappearance will not be dramatic, but it will be total. Even friendly relationships are not immune. Those who value you will unconsciously respect your boundaries. Those who see opportunity in weakness will gradually remove you from relevance. The pattern is consistent. Non-enforcement invites replacement. The threat is not visible confrontation. It is slow, incremental loss of influence, voice, and presence. By the time it is apparent, reversing it is extremely difficult. People rarely regain the position they quietly surrendered to others.
Understanding this threat reframes your approach. Social survival depends on proactive self-respect enforcement. It is not enough to be competent, kind, or ethical. You must be perceived as unmovable and essential. Anything less ensures gradual erasure, and nothing in charm, justification, or effort can reverse it once the pattern solidifies. The lesson is stark. Your silence, compliance, and self-abandonment are being watched, measured, and exploited. Awareness alone does not suffice. Action is mandatory. Once the threat of social erasure is understood, the next step is strategic enforcement of your own authority. This is where theory becomes action. You must stop relying on others' recognition and begin commanding it through behavior. The first principle is boundary consolidation. Identify the behaviors, situations, and interactions where your respect is negotiable. For each, determine a non-negotiable response. Silence, selective engagement, and precise communication are your weapons. Every deviation from your standards is a signal to others that you are malleable. Eliminate those signals. Next, practice calibrated absence. When your presence is undervalued, withdraw partially, not as punishment, but as a demonstration of scarcity. Humans inherently respect what they cannot easily control. Your withdrawal forces recalibration. It shifts perception from optional participant to essential figure. Communication must be compressed and deliberate. Over-explaining, justifying, or over-clarifying leaks power. Every word beyond necessity is an invitation for intrusion. Use statements, not explanations. Commands, not pleas. Minimalism communicates authority more efficiently than verbosity. Third, reframe interactions. If someone challenges you, do not respond immediately. Allow them to overexpose their position. Their impatience, justification, and escalation become data. Observe, measure, and respond only where it preserves or enhances your authority. This is power through controlled reaction, not confrontation. Internal alignment is equally critical. Authority must be perceived internally before it can be enforced externally. Doubt, hesitation, or moralized second-guessing undermines enforcement. Each decision and action must reflect certainty. If you vacillate internally, others will sense it and exploit it. Situational intelligence is necessary. Different environments demand different enforcement levels. Public arenas, professional contexts, and social circles vary in their tolerance for silence, withdrawal, and assertion. Strategic authority is flexible in form, but consistent in principle. Self-respect is non-negotiable. Finally, accept the psychological cost. Power attracts resistance. People accustomed to your previous malleability will test limits aggressively. This is expected. Do not justify, defend, or apologize unnecessarily. The discomfort you feel is confirmation. The hierarchy is recalibrating around your enforced boundaries. Mastery of this chapter's principle transforms you from a participant reacting to the world into a fixed point others orient themselves around. Social influence is no longer about charm, persuasion, or explanation. It is about presence, consistency, and silent command. Power is not demanded. It is recognized when your position is unmovable.
To become untouchable, something must die first. Not your ambition, not your empathy, your old identity. The approval-seeking version of you cannot coexist with authority. It leaks neediness through micro-behaviors, seeking validation, softening statements, explaining motives, waiting to be chosen. This identity survives on external permission, and external permission is the weakest foundation for power. The death begins with detachment from outcome. You stop tying your self-worth to how others react. Praise becomes irrelevant. Disapproval loses its sting. When your internal compass replaces external validation, your behavior shifts automatically. You speak less, you move slower, you react later. These are not tactics, they are consequences of internal alignment. Next comes identity replacement. You adopt the role of someone who does not chase relevance. Instead, relevance orbits them. This identity is built on restraint. You do not fill silence. You do not rush decisions. You do not compete for attention. Scarcity becomes your natural state, not a performed strategy. Untouchable individuals share a critical trait. They are impossible to emotionally manipulate. Guilt no longer moves them. Urgency does not rush them. Social pressure does not bend them. Others quickly realize that leverage no longer exists. When leverage disappears, attacks stop. Exploitation ends. Respect stabilizes. This phase often triggers resistance. People who benefited from your previous self will attempt to revive it. They'll frame your boundaries as arrogance, coldness, or ego. This is the final test. Do not defend the transformation. Silence confirms permanence. Your identity now communicates authority without declaration. You don't announce boundaries, they're felt. You don't demand respect, it's assumed. You don't threaten withdrawal, you are already scarce. At this level, disrespect becomes irrational, not because others suddenly become kind, but because you no longer present an entry point. You are not reactive, not needy, not explainable, and what cannot be explained cannot be controlled. This is the final evolution before dominance. You are no longer someone people evaluate. You are someone they adjust to. This is the final line. There is no middle ground. People like to believe respect is negotiable, that it can be rebuilt later, repaired with effort, or reclaimed with explanations. That belief is comforting and completely false. Once the world categorizes you as disposable, it does not revisit the decision. Hierarchies rarely reverse themselves. Here is the final warning Machiavelli understood centuries ago. If you do not choose yourself, society will choose where to discard you. Every moment you delay enforcing self-respect, the cost compounds. Silence becomes consent. Flexibility becomes weakness. Kindness without boundaries becomes permission. And permission, once granted, is almost never revoked. This is not about cruelty. It is about survival. It is not about ego. It is about positioning. The elite understand one brutal truth. They would rather be quietly respected than loudly liked. From this point forward, your behavior must reflect one decision only. You are no longer available for erosion. You will speak less, but with weight. You will tolerate less without explanation. You will withdraw faster without guilt. Some will leave. Let them. Some will resist. Ignore them. Some will recalibrate. Those are the only ones worth keeping. This law is not taught because it cannot be softened. It is obeyed or paid for. If you understand this, you are already ahead of most people watching, and if you apply it, you will never be erased again.